What is up, potential future battlers? Thank you for joining HyberNation's first edition of Battle Stadium singles for our typical draft league. Now, I know a lot of you have had a few questions about how to do a lot of what we do in the league, how to get caught up, how to even install the software. So, that being said, the game is run on a client that you see in front of you, Pokemon Showdown. You're going to be able to follow the instructions in the document that I send you. I'll put a link to it in the description of the video as well. Just to install the software, get it open, make yourself an account, all that good stuff. There are instructions for like how to build a team, so I'm going to be doing a lot of things on this screen that I hope you have kind of clicked around and already understand, like how to find your way around the interface. But this is also going to help you with team building, a little bit more advanced understanding of what goes into making a good team, and how to actually execute in a battle. Now, keep in mind, there are a few things that you have to know before we go ahead and start clicking away. First off, let's go ahead and just real quick define the rules that make up a Battle Stadium singles. So BS singles, or Battle Stadium singles, is a 6v6 game mode. However, you go into team preview, you have all 6 of your Pokemon, and you see the opposing team. You also have them see yours. From there, you choose 3 of your 6 Pokemon to compete in the battle, and only those 3 Pokemon are eligible for the duration of the battle. And you are allowed to Dynamax or Gigantamax one single Pokemon on your team. That being said, because we are in a draft league, you've already drafted your types. So essentially what that rule means is, if you see in the background here, I'll go ahead and type it. Let's say you chose water and psychic, right? We chose water though. We're going to go ahead and just type in water. You can only use Pokemon from the water type. They just have to have water. So you've got all this stuff to select to. Nothing illegal. You don't see any Ubers. I'll explain that in just a moment. But you essentially can go ahead and use anything that contains that type. It doesn't have to be the main type. So the main type being on the left, secondary type being on the right. And then the same goes for psychic. So you chose water and psychic, right? It has to have one of those 2 types in it. Or you could have something like Slowbro that has both, which is pretty cool, but again, not required. So now that you understand what the format is and what you guys have done, you've gone ahead and chosen your types, and you're going to battle against somebody in the league who also chose 2 types. So the very next thing you're going to have to understand is what does a lot of this information mean? You're being thrown a ton of stuff right now, and you don't even know where to start building your team. Honestly, it can get very complex and convoluted, but there's some simple rules you can follow, or some simple tricks that you can follow to kind of make the experience easy and super enjoyable, actually. Super fun. So the first thing you got to understand is you're going to have these tiers thrown at you. Now, what you see on your screen is the tier distribution. So you've got the Uber tier at the very tippy top, OU, or overused, UU, underused, RU, rarely used, NU, never used, and PU, which is this special tier just for below NU. Traditionally, NU was the lowest, but they even had to add that with the insane amount of Pokemon available in the game now. You also see on the right there that you've got these BL tiers. They're just in between. We don't know whether to put them OU or UU, so we're going to do UUBL. Now, it's all fine and dandy. That's how they distribute the tiers. But most of this actually isn't relevant to you. All it's relevant for you is understanding that something, for example, UUBL Alakazam, is on average going to be considered weaker than something in OU, like a Barraskewda. Barraskewda has a similar speed. They're both very fast Pokemon. However, Barraskewda hits a lot harder, has access to things like Swift Swim to make it super fast if it's in the rain, things like that. Propeller Tail is a really strong ability, and it has really strong attacks that it has access to. And I'll explain that in just a moment as well. So really all you need to know is OU, much stronger, PU, much weaker. That doesn't necessarily mean you shouldn't use stuff in lower tiers, because everything has value, especially in a league format like this. It's all about just countering what your opponent could bring. But understanding that OU is, on average, the strongest Pokemon means that we can draw some conclusions that we're going to draw when we're building our team here in a second. And then the only other thing you got to know is Ubers aren't allowed. No Ubers. Block them out. They're not allowed. They're too strong. Usually like box art legendaries, but there's some weird Pokemon that are just like insanely broken just because of their innate strong competitive sets that are unfair in the traditional metagame. So with that being said, now that you understand in general like the format and what we're trying to do, let's actually build ourselves a team, go over some rules that might actually help us be successful when we're building a team. So I've outlined these steps to success that are going to make your team building experience a lot more fun, and we're going to go ahead and build a team and try to battle together on screen in just a moment. So steps to success. Step 1 is always going to be pick your favorites. Some people will tout that playing the meta is the best thing you have to do. Playing the meta is strong. Yes, it's strong, but at the same time, people tend to be more successful when they play compositions that they're comfortable with and compositions that they enjoy. So there are going to be some rules below this pick your favorites, but at the end of the day, picking your favorite Pokemon is the best strategy for success. So I'm going to show you one Pokemon that I very much have always enjoyed ever since I was a kid, but it's generally seen as pretty crappy. But I sure as shit am going to be using it when I build this team here. So, 2, identify enemy threats. That's what's important with the OU example. So enemy threats goes along with 3, identify your own weaknesses. Meaning everybody picked a type, right? So you kind of know what they can pick from, and knowing that OU does contain the strongest Pokemon in general, and UU still pretty reasonably strong Pokemon, you can kind of narrow it down and say, okay, what Pokemon are in the higher tiers and what Pokemon are stronger and more popular of that type. And that'll help you kind of narrow down what to expect your opponent to bring, and it'll help you kind of learn what they're going to do to you. And that way you can understand what you're going to be facing up against and what you can do to deal with it. Which is what brings me to point 4, you need to be able to pivot. Now, pivoting is something I'll kind of explain as I get into some battles here. But being able to pivot is really important because a lot of times in a one-on-one battle, you'll be forced to fight against something that you don't match up particularly well with. They might be too big of a wall and you don't have any moves that can actually damage that Pokemon. They might be faster than you and capable of hitting you really hard, and you can't deal with it. So you need to be able to pivot into something that can take that hit and then set you up for success. Next, you need to be able to balance your offense and defense. So balancing your offense and your defense is super important. So you have, again, things to pivot into, as well as Pokemon that can score KOs, Pokemon that can actually deal damage and put you in a favorable position numbers-wise. There are teams that specialize solely in offense, hyper offense. There are teams that specialize solely in hyper defense. But at the same time, teams that do that, the best teams that do that, even incorporate a little of the other. So understand how much damage you're going to do and how much damage you can take at any given time. Next, you're going to want to focus on getting speed control, number 6. Speed control can be established by a few things. First off, you can go ahead and just sort by this little speed stat right here. So I've sorted by the speed stat. As you can see, Regieleki is the fastest base speed Pokemon in the game at 200. That's at least legal. I believe, whatchamacallit, Deoxys speed, maybe, is the same speed. Let me, Deoxys speed? Base speed is also 200. No, 180. Base speed is 180, so Regieleki is the fastest Pokemon in the game. That's cool. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, so you've got Regieleki, who is the fastest Pokemon in the game, we'll call him for now. Could be wrong. But you also have the ability to use something like sticky webs. I should probably select a Pokemon that has sticky webs, huh? We'll go with a bug. Bugs use sticky web, right? Does Butterfree use sticky web? No, Butterfree can't use sticky web. Sticky web. Oh, look at that. You can just look up the move sticky web. We'll go with Galvantula. So, this lowers the speed of grounded foes by 1 when they switch in. So this is pretty cool. It's called an entry hazard. You've got stealth rocks, spikes, sticky web, poison spikes, stuff like that. And entry hazards essentially are things that affect a Pokemon when they switch in, so when they pivot. So you can do things like this to gain speed control, because it's going to slow them down by one tier, which will essentially half their speed. 1.5 or 0.5, yeah. It'll lower their speed when they switch in. You can also use things like Icy Wind. That's it, Icy Wind. So you can use something like Icy Wind, and lower their speed by 1 and apply some damage at the same time. So you can do something like that. Bulldoze does it as well. So establishing speed control, there's a few ways to slow your opponents down. You'll want to assure yourself that you know the speed of your Pokemon and that you can apply that speed, understand what's going to be faster and what's not. And then there's one final way to establish, two final ways, I guess, to establish speed control. You've got Tailwind, which is a move that gives you double speed for X amount of turns. And that applies to your entire team, not just you. So you can increase your speed stat, or you could use Tailwind to increase the speed of your team. However, the counter to that is a move called Trick Room. So I've got a Slowbro here. They can learn Trick Room. So what Trick Room does is, for 5 turns, the turn order is reversed. So essentially it says everything that would go in a specific order based on its speed goes in the opposite. So Slowbro, super slow Pokemon, has a base speed of 30. You could go ahead and make that 0. You could make that negative. And you could go ahead and say, I've got the slowest Pokemon in the game right now. I've got a speed of 31, and I use Trick Room, so now I go first because I have the lowest speed. So that's the final way that you can establish speed control. Next, number 7 is going to be to Google everything. I just went on a full tirade just explaining 0.6 instead of waiting for my team building session. But most of this knowledge came from just Googling, absorbing information, watching YouTube videos, stuff like that. Luckily, you guys have the benefit of being in a league where everybody is going to work together to help you learn, to help you be better, to help you be a better player. So number 8 as well, do that with number 7. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Come to somebody. Even your opponents are willing to talk to you about what's good, what's bad, and what you can do better to be a better player, and compliment you when you do things well, because it might be a lot of information you're about to hear and a lot of information you're going to absorb this season. But at the end of the day, you're going to do things very well. You're going to perform well. You're going to have moments where things just click and it feels great. So just feel free to reach out to people, ask them for help, ask them for input, and make sure to pat yourself on the back when you do a good job, because It's going to be super helpful for you. So now that we've gone through all that, remember these rules. Just keep these rules in mind. 1 through 8 simple rules, and you'll do a pretty decent job getting a team built. I guess there's a step 9 test. We're going to go ahead and test when we're done here, but you're going to try things. You're going to make a team. You're probably going to fail at first. You're probably going to get your butt kicked on the ladder because you're only allowed to use 2 types. But with 2 types, you have enough leeway to build a pretty decent balanced team, so you should be okay. But basically just build a couple teams, make sure they're legal, and test it out. So, that being said, I'm going to go ahead and switch us over to a full screen, so I've got my team here. So, first thing I'm going to do, ignore this team that I've got here. I'm going to show you just how to add a single Pokemon. So, I've got my team builder open. You should have the team builder information available to you from the document, how to get into team builder, how to have your account made, everything like that. So all you do is you go into your team, and I'm going to go ahead and click add Pokemon. So I'm going to go ahead and do this right in order. So I'm going to say step 1, pick your favorites. I've already picked one of my favorites, Benjamin Franklin here, Mr. Lightning Rod Seeking. We'll come back to him later. But we're also going to pick another one of my favorites, Blastoise. So Blastoise, you can see, is an NU Pokemon. NU feels bad, but you know, we have some strats that are going to make this NU Pokemon a little bit better. So we're going to choose the G-Max form. Actually, we're not going to choose the G-Max form. I lied. We're going to click add Pokemon. We're going to do Blastoise. We're going to do the NU version. We're going to do the base Blastoise. We're not going to get the Gigantamax one. And I will explain that in a little bit. If you like Gigantamax Blastoise, you should totally use it on your water team if you want. Because G-Max Blastoise is pretty strong. So G-Max is basically you can Dynamax one Pokemon in Gen 8 in Sword and Shield. Each battle. You'll see here that I actually have an Urshifu, the Rapid Strike Urshifu that has a Gigantamax form. But I can Dynamax any of these Pokemon if I want during the battle, but you just have to choose one per battle. Anyways, that's over. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go over building out my Blastoise. So we're going to start with nickname. We're going to call this guy Koopa Troopa. Cool. Koopa Troopa the Blastoise. And then next we're going to hop into the Details tab. So the Details tab allows you to set the level, which is going to stay 50 for Battle Stadium singles. All Pokemon are at level 50. You can go ahead and set a gender if you want. Usually random's fine, but like if you have a personal preference, knock yourself out. There are reasons to go a gender if you're playing like Attract Cheese, but typically people don't really go for that because genderization is so inconsistent in the game, we'll go with. So keep it random unless you got favorites and you want to do it your own way. You can change it to Gigantamax if you want. I'm not going to, but you can change it to Gigantamax here, and you can set it to shiny. So my Blastoise can be purple. I'm going to set it purple. Next, we've got the item tab. So every Pokemon is allowed to have one held item, so should they choose to do so in the battle. Now, when you choose your item, you really want to be wary of the strengths and weaknesses of your Pokemon. Primarily the strengths. Your item is meant to typically improve your standing. It's not made to be like a defensive tool or a protective tool. So if your strength is regeneration, you could go something like Leftovers. If your strength is being able to tank a lot of hits while dealing consistent damage, you could do something like an Assault Vest. Assault Vest increases your special defense, but you can only select damaging moves, meaning you can't use Protect, you can't use setup moves, you can't use Reflect or whatever. But for my Blastoise, I'm actually going to use Life Orb. Add more damage. And I'm going to give myself the ability Rain Dish, and I'm going to explain why in just a moment. Next is the Abilities tab. You can select any ability that you want for your Pokemon that they have available. Blastoise base ability is Torrent. After it reaches a third or less of its max HP, its attack stat is its attacking stat. So if it's physical or special, whichever is the one it uses at the time, will be 1.5. So it makes its water attack stronger. However, I'm going to choose Rain Dish because it says if Rain Dance is active, this Pokemon heals 1/16 of its max HP each turn. Actually, I just had a better idea. We're going to do the berry for you. Vicky Berry. And for you, we're actually going to do Leftovers. So we've got Leftovers, which heals our Pokemon at the end of every turn. And we've got Rain Dish, which also heals our Pokemon at the end of every turn. So this guy's going to be a big Healy boy. And then we have to make another decision. So now we have our ability, we have our items, we have all of our details, we have our name, Koopa Troopa. So next we need to choose moves. Keep in mind that all this stuff that I'm telling you about is going to be available on the Smogon Dex. So don't forget, I sent you the Smogon Dex in the document. You should definitely take a look at it. The Smogon Dex will recommend best builds for each of your favorite Pokemon. So it's a good base point to go off of before you transition into figuring out what exactly it is you personally want to do to change. So keep in mind, we're just doing water and psychic right now. Our team is going to contain some psychic stuff and some water stuff. And we're going to be facing off against somebody who also is restricted to 2 types. So we're going to keep that in mind when we're building here. So what I want my Blastoise to do. So Blastoise is known for having access to something very important in Rapid Spin. So I want my Blastoise to be able to use Rapid Spin, which is a physical move that removes all entry hazards from the field, like Leech Seed, like those Stealth Rocks I talked about, like that, whatchamacallit, Sticky Web. It'll remove Sticky Web. So entry hazards are less likely to hit you, or impossible to hit you. If you use Rapid Spin, it'll remove them. That being said, it is a move. It's a normal type move, so you can't use it into a ghost type. Beware using Rapid Spin into ghost types. If you have access to something, you might want to look up and see Defog instead. Defog does the same thing, essentially. It removes entry hazards, and it lowers, I believe it lowers accuracy. Let me double check. Defog. Water type, Cramorant, Defog. -1 evasion. That's it. That's it basically makes it easier to hit stuff. But the point is, it clears terrain and hazards. That's the important part. That's what we care about. So we're gonna go ahead and re-add wrong Blastoise. We're gonna go ahead and re-add our Leftovers. Koopa Troopa. Shiny. Rain Dish. So we're gonna go ahead and go back and have Rapid Spin back on. And then we're going to decide here now what kind of Blastoise we want to be. Well, I want to be an annoying one. So I'm going to select Protect, which is going to allow Rain Dish and Leftovers to do work. And then I'm going to pick moves that do a lot of damage. So we want... we don't really want Water Spout. I was probably thinking something like Scald, which adds a burn chance. And then I was also thinking, because my preparation here is against a... Actually, no, I'm going to go with Hydro Pump and Ice Beam. So, You'll see in just a moment that I'm preparing to play against somebody who is Dragon and Fairy as their type. Dragon type super weak against Ice Beam, so I'm going to choose a strong, what's called a stab move, or same type attack bonus. So basically a Pokemon does 1.5 times damage to the base power. So like instead of a 110 power move, it's I gotta do basic math here. 1 times 1.5. Instead of 110, it's 165 base power move, Hydro Pump. So that's really good. And then you also have Ice Beam, which is super effective against Dragon types. So we're going to go ahead and take Ice Beam. We're going to take Hydro Pump. And then finally, you've got your EV spreads, your stats. So this is where things get a little convoluted. So the Smogon Dex will tell you what the most common or the most used type of spread or strategy is for this type of game mode. However, you might want to make some adjustments yourself as you become familiar with the game. That being said, this application gives you a recommendation. I could click Specially Defensive and it'll fill in all my stats for me. But we're going to do something a little bit different here. I'm personally going to lower this slider, add more special attack. I want to make this guy hit really hard. Actually, I'm going to make this guy hit really hard. Cool. Okay, so what I just did is essentially you can have up to 252 EVs in a single stat. And then you have 508 total EVs that you can distribute to your Pokemon, right? And those EVs will individually increase a specific stat. So what we're going to do is we're always going to pretend our IVs or individual values are just maxed out for most stats, right? So 31, 31, 31 across the board. If it needs to be 0 for any reason, it'll do it by default for you or do something like this. So I'm using a Blastoise that has Rapid Spin, actually. Yeah, I'm using a Blastoise that has Rapid Spin, which means I'm going to keep 31 attack, but I'm going to do negative attack in my nature. So you've got Modest, which increases special attack and lowers attack. So I've got a Modest Blastoise, but I'm going to keep 31, so Rapid Spin still hurts. There are arguments to lower that because Confusion hurts yourself based on your attack. And then there's a move called Foul Play that uses your attack stat to hurt you. So there's an argument to make this 0 and just have Rapid Spin for the utility. But I personally think that the little bit of damage you get from going to 92 instead of 79 attack is more important here in singles. Oh, I just put 91, 31. So yeah, so I put 252 speed, 252 special attack. I made my Blastoise have 130 speed, which at a 78 base speed is kind of weird. Typically you can use the rule of 100 for speed control to understand if base speed's going to be better for you. But you'll kind of see I'm going to make some changes to my team here in a moment that are going to kind of fix that. So I've got a specially defensive it was going to be a specially defensive Blastoise. This is actually going to be a very fast special attacking Blastoise. My main goal is whenever I bring this Blastoise, I'm going to be Dynamaxing it. So I'm going to only bring this Blastoise with the sole intention of clicking the Dynamax button on it and clicking on Hydro Pump. Because Dynamax move's base power is based on the base power of the move you're clicking it from. So Hydro Pump, super high base power, which means the max water gonna do a lot of damage. And max water sets up Rain, which is gonna make Rain Dish heal me. So that's the mentality using Leftovers, Rain Dish, and Hydro Pump on my Blastoise here. If that all makes sense, we can go ahead and move on. If any of that doesn't make sense, please go back, kind of look things through. I know I tend to ramble at times. Or you can go ahead and DM me on Discord, DM me anywhere you need, and ask me more about that. But we're going to go ahead and make a quick change too. We're going to get rid of this guy, and we are going to add somebody that uses Tailwind. We also need somebody... Are there any Psychic type Tailwind users? There are. I'm going to get a Latios. Give it Tailwind. For fun. I like Latios. Alright. So, next step, we're going to go ahead and build a team. So, I've got Hangover Hannah here. Hangover Hannah is a bit slow. I've got actually a few slow Pokemon on my team. You saw Koopa Troopa, he's real slow. But I also have Pokemon with a relatively high base speed. So I've got like Latios that has a high base speed of 110. I've got nobody else who has a high base speed. So we've got Koopa Troopa and Latios who are like speed-based carries, but we also have a very slow carry in this guy. So we have a 0 stat on him for speed. We're going to give him negative speed. Again, pause the video, slow it down, whatever you need to do to kind of follow what I'm doing. But you'll see here that I've got Hangover Hannah, who has Trick Room, which is that move I talk about, speed control. Speed control, speed control. If you're going to bring... So my mentality is if I'm going to bring Washed or I'm going to bring Benjamin Franklin, two very slow Pokemon, I typically also want to bring Hangover Hannah because she has Trick Room and can reverse the turn order. So that's going to make it so I go first with these guys pretty much against no matter what my opponent brings because they're so slow at the beginning. Same with Cheese. Cheese is also very slow, so that helps him too. But Cheese doesn't really care about being slow, and I'll explain why. So that's the idea with Hangover Hannah. Has a Vicky Berry, which will heal it once it reaches 33% or less max HP. Regenerator, which if it's pivoted out means it will come back with a third of its maximum HP back. It's going to be a very defensive Pokemon. It's my physically defensive Pokemon. And then it also brings Scald, which has a chance to burn. Burning halves the attack damage of physical attacks. And then Future Sight, which will hit something 2 turns later. So my main damaging moves are more about creating chip damage and providing support. So this is a very tanky, regenerating, like pivot capable Pokemon. So it's going to be able to take a hit, it's going to be able to dish a hit back out very slowly and provide chip damage and set up my strong physical and mostly physical attackers for success. Next, we got Benjamin Franklin. So I just want to remind you guys that I did mention in step 3 that you need to identify your strengths and weaknesses. Your weaknesses as a water type team is going to be electricity. However, this ability, Lightning Rod, makes this Pokemon draw in electric moves to itself and will not get hurt if it draws in that electric move. It's also going to raise special attack by 1, but that doesn't matter. I'm not using special attack. And it makes you immune to electricity. So if I'm against a Pokemon that I suspect is going to use electric type moves, then all I do is I bring in Benjamin Franklin into the electric move and boom, I'm immune. From there, I'm using a Choice Band, just going to allow my attacks to do 1.5 extra damage physical, but I can only use the first move I click every time I'm out. So I have to go ahead and swap. I need to pivot again in order to switch moves. I've got Knockoff, which will... Oh, Knockoff is illegal. Mega Horn. So I'm using Flip Turn, which is going to do damage. It's a 60 damage stab physical move, which will do damage, and then I get to switch to one of my other Pokemon after I use it. Next, you got Waterfall, just a really strong stab move. Also has a chance to flinch if I go first. Mega Horn, no additional effects, super strong bug type move, does have lower accuracy, so be warned, and Poison Jab. So Poison Jab I put in here specifically because I am making this sample team as if I had drafted Water and Psychic. And I'm preparing as if I'm against somebody that drafted Dragon and Fairy. So keep in mind, I'm preparing for Dragon and Fairy. So I've chosen Poison Jab, which is a strong 80 power move. It's not stab, it's not like Benjamin Franklin is a poison type, but it's a strong move nonetheless, with a strong item and a strong physical attack that is super effective against fairy types. And that's what I did with my stats. I made my stats cater towards that. And that's going to be the case here with Washed. Washed, very slow Pokemon. It's using the Assault Vest, which is going to increase its special defense by 1.5. Really good against fairies. Most standard attacking fairy types are special. The best fairy type stab moves are special. There are a few physical ones, but for the most part, we're worried about those special attackers. So we're going to be a steel type. We wall the crap out of it. However, we are also psychic, so we fit the criteria of being psychic or water. So we've got just really strong moves. We got Bullet Punch, which is a priority move. So it allows it to go first. Bulkiness and attack investment. Negative speed investment. We're going to try to use it in Trick Room. So we're going to be going first by not being the fastest. Same thing here. We got Black Sludge, which heals poison type Pokemon over the turn with Toxapex. We got Regenerator, which is going to heal us on a pivot. Again, pivot. Scald again, recover to heal. Baneful Bunker, which is a shield. It protects from being hit by a move, but if I get hit by a physical move, it has a chance to poison the opponent, or it poisons the opponent if they're susceptible to poison. And then Haze eliminates stat changes, so Haze is going to be very important because of Dynamax being allowed. If a Pokemon is going to set up in your face, so set up meaning boost its own stats or lower your stats and make you more susceptible to damage, easier to break down, then you just use Haze, and it's going to eliminate all those stat changes, and you're safe again. And then defense investment. Blastoise, we went through Blastoise. And Latios real quick. I'm going to go ahead and make my Latios. Let's make it... We're against Dragon types. We're going to do Draco Meteor. Very strong, special Dragon type move. We're also against Fairy. So, I mean... It's not going to be great. However, there is one Fairy type Pokemon that hurts our team very badly because we have Water type as one of our types and Psychic is the other. We actually have a weird situation where we're weak to grass. Like, our team is very susceptible to really strong grass type attackers. In my mind, I'm thinking of like Kartana or Tapu Bulu. Both very strong Pokemon that can cause a lot of damage if unchecked. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add Ice Beam and I'm going to add Mystical Fire. Not typical moves on Latios, but I'm also going to make it fast. I'm going to give it really high special attack, and then I'm going to give it Choice Specs. No, I'm not going to give it Choice Specs because I need Tailwind, the other speed control. I'm going to use Expert Belt instead. So what Expert Belt does is super effective attacks do additional damage. Actually, no, I said Life Orb earlier. I got rid of the Life Orb on the other guy, so I can give Life Orb here. So Life Orb, going to hit really hard. Draco Meteor, Ice Beam, Mystical Fire, and Tailwind. Tailwind's going to allow us to establish speed control if we want. Let's name Latios Larry because I don't have time anymore. Shiny? Oh, that's kind of cool. We'll go with that. Alright, so we've got our team. We're going to hit back, and we're going to hit Validate. Make sure the team is legal. It says your team is valid for Gen 8 Battle Stadium singles. And then the final step is going to be practice. So we're going to pretend this is our Water Psychic versus Dragon Fairy team. Going to go back home, and we're going to go to Battle Stadium singles. I have no idea if this is going to work. I didn't test this at all, so this could go poorly. So I'm going to hit battle. So we get into a Battle Stadium singles match, and they went with the meta. So what you'll see is I can hover over my opponent's Pokemon, right? And it'll show their speed range, it'll show their potential abilities, it'll show their current HP, their type, stuff like that. And then I want to pick the 3 Pokemon that I use. So I see 1, 2 ground types. I also see Regieleki, which is going to be very fast. So my speed mode probably wants to be slow. So that being said, I probably want to do something like Hangover Hannah, Cheese, and Washed. Right? Yep, so I'm against Thundurus. First thing first. I want to threaten Electric and Flying. Threaten Electric and Flying. I do have access to Ice Punch, and there's nothing Thundurus can do to him. However, he can... Like, I think Hangover Hannah can take a shot. Like, I think I use Trick Room here. Yeah. So it's a physical attacker. It used Wild Charge, right? Wild Charge did recoil, and I got Trick Room up. So now I'm faster. So now I can win the War of Attrition, right? So I'm going to use Slack Off and heal. And it's going to try to use Superpower. So he thinks... Ah, there we go. So I just used Future Sight, which allows me to go before him. Or not go. So I get to go before him because of Trick Room. But he tried to use Protect, but I used Future Sight, which doesn't attack right away. So now I'm going to switch to Scald. There we go. So he used Fly. I'm going to go ahead and use this time. I have 1 turn on Trick Room. Let's Slack Off. Take a Fly. And then he dies to the Future Sight. So, we just used a stall strategy to completely nullify this person's first Pokemon. So, Gardevoir now has Trace. So, Gardevoir has the ability Trace, so now it has the ability Regenerator that it took from me. So, Gardevoir looks like it can go from 76 to 145 speed. Clearly, I'm slower. I'm 31 speed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, you've done your job. I'm going to Trick Room 1 more time. Yeah, there we go. And then I'm going to switch to this guy. And you can see the Gardevoir is trying to set up, right? Like, you use Calm Mind, and he's trying to set up on me. Yeah. Good luck. We're going to use Haze. So... Gardevoir could use a Psychic type move here and do a lot of damage. Yep. Nope, nope, nope. Use Baneful Bunker. And there we go. The Draining Kiss gets the poison. Let's go. I don't know why it used Draining Kiss. That's against a poison type. Whatever. So then we're going to go back to Hangover Hannah. Get Draining Kiss, but it doesn't really matter that much. And then we're going to try to make one more pivot here. There we go. Alright, Gardevoir is still taking damage. So I think what I'm going to do now is go for 1 Bullet Punch because we know that it probably doesn't have a move that can hurt this. Actually, we know it doesn't have a move that can hurt this. Which means it's probably going to swap out. Let's use Max Hailstorm. Oh, it has Mystical Fire. Okay, okay. That's good to know. I'm very lucky that it didn't kill. But now, Regieleki can't really do much to me. So I'm going to go ahead and slap Max Quake. It's going to try to Dynamax. It's going to try to kill me first. But it's going to fail because I'm bulky. There we go. So Regieleki's attack did 28.1% damage, but now it is in electric terrain, which makes me think it can kill me now. Oh, I know how to win this. Wait, do I? Max Quake. Yeah, it's gonna die. I think I might lose here. I think I made a mistake. Yeah, it does suck that Regieleki was the last one standing. Yep. Oh, that's not good. I might actually lose here. I kind of have to just hope that I survive one of these. Skull? No. Okay. That was really close. So we did learn something. 1, Regieleki sucks. 2, I pulled the trigger a little too early. Yeah, so I pulled the trigger a little bit too early there. Definitely a super fun battle. And I think I did somewhat well, all things considered. I probably could have tried to set up Trick Room before, knowing like Regieleki could have been there, but at the same time, like, that wasn't too bad. So, that being said, I do want to go ahead and thank anyone who managed to make it to the end of this video. I know it's been 45 minutes, but hopefully this will help you with your future endeavors. So, don't forget, pick your favorites, identify enemy threats, identify your strengths and weaknesses, be able to pivot, balance your offense and defense, get speed control, Google everything, and don't be afraid to ask for help. Again, my name has been Dory. If you need any help whatsoever, feel free to DM me on Discord. Thanks, and have a good one, everyone.